Yesterday I got such amazing responses to such an important question. What is the greatest challenge facing the Jewish people? And this is not just a global question. This is really a personal question. I think when we identify what's facing us, what's our greatest challenge, then we know what to focus on. Then we know what we need to work on most in our day. And the responses that I got were actually very fascinating. And I think what I think is even more interesting is I think we could really take every answer that I received and connect it to one root. And that's really what I was looking for. I want to tell you the history of this question. Someone texted me, someone that's very, as I pointed out, deals and is in the forefront of trying to help the Jewish people. And he asked me, so I want to sit with you and discuss with you for a few minutes what is the greatest challenge of the Jewish people. So after I got the text, so I went home and I was schmoozing with my Eishes Chayil, Mi Imtza, very wise wife, and I was discussing it and I told her what I thought the response was. And I said, it's one word. I said, it's happiness. So Baruch Hashem, my wife doesn't let me get away so easy. She said, no, I don't think it's happiness. It's too much. That's too American. It's really about the idea that everyone's seeking pleasure. And we were discussing exactly the differences. Pleasure really is the source for why a person is in a state of happiness. And although initially it sounds like, come on, that's all it is. That's the greatest challenge that faces the Jewish people and really the entire world. More than anyone, the Jewish people. We could explain that based also on the Tanya and many other holy books. Why is that? Because if you look at the Teichacha, you want to know why is it that all the terrible tragedies have happened from the beginning of history until now, and it hasn't stopped. God says in Parshas Kisavai, "Tachas hashalavat et Hashem lekecha b'simcha v'tuv leivav." You didn't serve me mitoch simcha v'tuv leivav. Straight out. And the Rambam discusses this in Hilchos Sukkah. And it's interesting, the Tanya, right in the beginning, discusses the idea of why a person shouldn't look himself as a Rasha. There's a whole discussion if you should look yourself like a tzaddik or a Rasha. One of the main reasons why you not look at yourself as a Rasha, which is actually one of the greatest challenges today. And I feel this is really where my mind actually immediately went to this place, to this root, is so many people are so hard on themselves. So many people are not satisfied. So many people are so self-destructive. So many people, and I think this is really, if you think about it, take one topic, marriage. Right now, someone sent me an article, even in the Eretz Yisrael, in the Haredi world, and certainly in the secular world, it's normal to be divorced. What does that mean? Where's divorce come from? Usually, again, we're speaking on a general level, trying to get to the root of things, is when a person's not happy inside, usually. If a person is so happy, it's so much easier to deal with anyone else. If a person is so happy, it's easier to love someone else. And this is not just marriage. Think about your partner. Think about anyone that you're in a fight with. Usually when a person's in a good place, when a person's satisfied, it's so much easier to function. It's so much easier to be suddenly forgiving. It's easier to be much more tolerant. Thank God, Rahman al-Itzlan, of all the terrible tragedies that we heard this year, especially suicide. Young boys, young girls. I deal with couples that at night, basically, what do? They smoke weed. They smoke weed. Why do they smoke weed? Because they're looking for happiness. It's not there. Everyone's in search of happiness. Someone wrote something, or emailed me, or texted me, or WhatsApp me. He said, today, Rebbe, it's because there's so much information out there, and you could see everything. You could see on Instagram, you could see on WhatsApp, you could see what's going on in an instant. You know what's going on with this person, and the grass is greener on that person. It's also part of it, but where does that all stem from? It stems from this root of lack of happiness. And if you think about it, in the beginning of creation, it's one of the things that are not so noticed. Adam Arishon is punished with the ground, with the work in the ground, be'itzavoin, an eitzav of sadness. Chava, be'etzev tel dibanim. Sadness comes to the world. Misa represents sadness. Chayus, chiyus, being alive represents happiness. This is the challenge of our door, and of course of every generation. Because like the Torah says, that was the cause. But maybe perhaps in this generation is the greatest. And the question is, what's the solution? So first of all, The Rebbeinu Shem gave us a Torah. I told my kids, we're all going to have a test. Rabbi Daniel used to say this. He used to say, are you getting ready for your test? Sometimes Rabbi Daniel was known, he didn't go to many chasanas. He said, one night, he says, I'm preparing for my test. They said, what test? Up in Shemaim, after 120, we're all going to go upstairs. And based on our ability and capabilities, if someone had the ability to know Shas, to memorize Shas, to know all the summaries, like the Baal HaTanya writes that a person has to know all the Torah. So if you're a person that's able to take an art scroll and memorize the conclusions, you're going to come up to Shemaim, and they're going to say, okay, you ready for the test? And you're going to be like, what? Can you imagine? Imagine when you show up to school and you find out there's a test. This is the ultimate. And if a lady knows how to learn the laws of Shabbos and the laws of Nidan and Pirkei Avos and maybe Tehillim to know it properly, that's also going to be on the test. It's going to be a test. And I want to tell you something. It's not just about the fact that we're studying for a test. Hashem put us in this world and He gave us and said, listen, study for the test. It's because He gave us a gift that really is the source for true happiness. Take a person and really, for half an hour, put yourself in a room for half an hour. Turn off your phone, turn off everything, and take out a Gemara, a Chumash, something that you, a Pirkei Avos, and learn. You will see, I think everyone usually recognizes after they develop the ability that there is nothing more delicious. Why? Because it says the Torah is chaviva, it's a chemdat gnuza, it's something beyond this world. I want to tell you something that I heard from my Rebbe. He was describing once what it looked like, and this is, I think, the fact that in the previous generations there wasn't so much depression, there wasn't so much sadness. A person lived, again, there was challenges, there's pogroms, and there were terrible challenges throughout the generations, and we're not discounting that. But if you lived in a small shtetl, like in Vilna, they describe one day where suddenly there was a question in the Beis Midrash, and it says that all the stores were closed. There was a shaila in the Beis Midrash and no one knew the answer, and the Balabatim, who used to study in those days 3 hours a day, were running out and trying to give an answer. What is this all describing? I have in my shir, I see Balabatim, amazing guys that really want to learn Shas. They want to know the daf. It bothers them. You know why it bothers them? Because when we don't understand the Torah, something that's the source of the real pleasure, it bothers us. There is so much more to speak about this, but this is, I think, just the beginning, and hopefully maybe this could give an inspiration to people to really attach themselves to the study of Torah, to connecting to Torah, whether it's Chassidus, whether it's non-Chassidus, whether it's Halacha, whether it's not, but really going to the depth and really connecting to the learning. That's the true source of pleasure, and that's what we're seeking, every one of us. Hatzlacha.